Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Politics of Survival. I'm your host, Tara Reade. Yeah, it's been a week since I've talked to you. And the last time I talked to you, it was with Kyle Seraphin, who is a FBI whistleblower. And tonight I have back with me to continue our conversation from last August, the wonderful Chairman Omali, who represents the Uhuru Group, the African People's Socialist Party, and who went through an FBI raid, as you all remember, my audience, back in August. And we had a show about that. And now he's back with us to talk about the latest developments and everything that's going on. So welcome, Chairman Omali. It's good to have you back.
Thank you so much. It's very good to be with you. We really appreciate the fact that you are assisting us in breaking out of this information blockade that has been imposed on us by apparently the federal government and various other platforms that serves the interests of the federal government. Yeah, thank you so much.
So for my audience, the Uhuru Group has a if you look it up, it's called The Burning Spear. So you can look that up. They have a really good publications and YouTube clips of a lot of things they've been through, and Reef is showing us. So thank you. Thank you, Reef. So Chairman Omali, could you talk a little bit about your group and the Uhuru Group, what you do, what happened in August, and then bring us up to speed?
Well, the Uhuru Movement stems from the struggle of Black people in this country in the 1960s. I said in this country, but at that time, the Black movement was really growing like as an international movement, connected all around the world with different kinds of organizations, et cetera, but all really concentrating on the question of anti-colonialism, the struggle against colonialism, which is something that permeated the entire world. Oppressed peoples everywhere were struggling. I mean, we came out of a Bandung conference in the 1950s, where countries from Africa and Asia came together to talk about freedom and independence. In 1966, the Tricontinental Conference happened in Havana, Cuba, attended by something like more than 300 people from something like 80 different countries and what have you. So at this time, the struggle was one that was seriously involved in just trying to become a liberated and free people. So the Uhuru Movement was born from that process. I was an organizer with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee called SNCC. It was an extraordinarily dynamic kind of movement, and it was the organization that really represented the bridge from the civil rights movement that people like to, in retrospect, applaud Martin Luther King for being a part of, and a new rising movement that was characterized as a Black Power movement. And this Black Power demand that came about in 1966 from SNCC, by the way, was a demand that gave a relatively universal character to the struggle of Black people in this country and connected to the whole struggle of anti-colonialism. So the struggle for power is a struggle against colonialism, as opposed to a simplistic struggle against racism, saying that what we have to do is fight to make white people like us. And there's no way you can even know if you ever won the struggle against racism. It's not like somebody comes out with a flag and say, okay, we surrender. You know, now racism is dead. But the end of colonialism results in people who can be free. They can be. We saw that in Cuba and Algeria and various other places where people were winning freedom. So we were part of that movement. And in 1966, as a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, on the December 29th of that year, I was arrested in St. Petersburg, Florida, for leading a demonstration to the City Hall. And at which time, several of us went into that building of the City Hall and removed an 8x10 grotesque racial caricature of Black people hanging in the real seat of power. And I was charged with 11 different offenses, sent to court on misdemeanor charges, convicted, sent to court on the felony of grand larceny for removing that, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. I spent off and on something like 2 years in prison based on that, and And, a movement sort of grew out of that along with other forces. But at the same time, we were coming into existence. We are looking at the process that this country was the United States, and the whole world was in a certain state of turmoil, and just similar to now, where you see how the contradictions are occurring with one sector of the population climbing the walls of the Capitol and chasing the vice president, et cetera. It was just turmoil everywhere. And inside the United States is turmoil. People forget that it was in November of 1963 that U.S. president was killed, assassinated here. We saw a period where one president was forced to resign, another, and which was a coup of sorts. Another president, vice president, was forced to resign during the same time frame. 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated, and there's no doubt in anybody's mind of the involvement of the U.S. government in that, and the FBI. 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. 1969, Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party in Chicago, Illinois, December 4th, assassinated. And there was just this array of killings, and this contest at the time that was occurring between what was characterized as Soviet Russia and the United States was a factor, just as the contest between Russia, China, the United States, and these other forces in the international arena constitute a part of the context that we're looking at, where the United States is now again fighting for its hegemonic place in the whole world in this contest. And at the same time, we have Joe Biden claiming that he represents the leadership of the in the struggle of the democracies against the autocracies of the world. And it's just an extraordinary thing that is there. And our organization has been one for self-determination. And we have various kinds of institutions we've created, a lot of them here in St. Louis, where we've been since 2014, after the murder of Mike Brown by police forces, and also a host of FBI agents coming into St. Louis, by the way. And we were told that it was supposed to be we assumed it was supposed to be many people to look out for the interests of the Black people who've been killed by the police, police who were wearing bracelets proclaiming their fidelity and loyalty to Darren Wilson, the person who killed Mike Brown, in a city that had a majority African population, but only a couple of Africans on the police department or in the government, et cetera. But that's not the case. The FBI came in and set up 3 young people and arrested them for plotting to commit some kind of offense in the city. So we've been here for a long time. We organize. We now exist on the continent of Africa. We're in Europe. We're in France and England in particular. But we have forces who we worked with for long times in Berlin, in Germany, and various other places, Belgium, in Europe. We are in the Americas.
You were in Ireland too.
Oh yes, I was in Ireland. That was one of the most extraordinary trips I made. And this is, what makes it so obviously phony, this charge about we are supposed to be Russian agents, in part because I went to Moscow at the invitation of a non-governmental organization there in Russia. But I was in Ireland. And it was an extraordinary experience, because it was the first time I'd ever seen that white people who were living under the circumstances in there, just like Black people here. I mean, where they were living under direct British colonialism, and the terror that the people were facing was horrific. But the Irish united with us, and we won them to come out with a press conference stating their unity with our demand for reparations, and also their unity with our demand that the United States should ratify the United Nations Convention on prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide. So I was invited to Spain. I was in Spain at a non-governmental organization that was close to the Spanish government there. So I've done all those things. and we built an organization. We're a small organization, but we're relatively influential, and we have a presence in many places, around the world.